Good morning, year 4, and welcome to the final lesson of this week. I'd like you to look at the mental arithmetic questions. You'll notice they're a little bit different to the ones you've been doing earlier in the week, so please stop the video now and have a go at them. Okay, welcome back, year 4. I'm now going to show you the answers to the questions. Now, hopefully, as you're marking them, you're realising that this is all about number bonds to 20 and number bonds to 100, which are really important skills to practice in maths. Now, if we have a look at this question, there was obviously a question mark there. 100 subtract something is 64. Well, if I know I've got to make 100, then I can be thinking about what bonds do I use to go with 64. To make 100, I could count on from 64. 64 add 6 takes me to 70. Add another 30 gets me 100. Hence I added on 36. So I was very much using the inverse there to get to 100. Another approach that I could have taken would have been to have done 100 and subtracted the 64. And if I subtract 60, I get to 40. Subtract 4 more and I get the answer 36. I could have taken a similar approach with not knowing my answer here. If you're the Sapphire group or the Bronze challenge, then you're having to go at the green. Then 20 take something is 12. Well, what would I add to 12 to get to 20? Or 20 take 10 is 10. 20 take another 2, and I've managed to get 8. So I hope you had some success with those questions today, and we'll be building on that more next week. In terms of today's lesson then, you are going to be finding fractions of amounts. So we're going to be thinking of apples, sweets, and actually working out what is a fifth of a particular amount. What is 3/5 of a particular amount, for example. It's going to be very important to be successful that we are looking at the denominator to tell us what we're dividing into. Are we dividing into 5 groups because it's fifths? Are we dividing into 8 groups because it's eighths? We're going to use the bar model to help us visualize, and then the numerator will be telling us, so the number at the top of the fraction will be telling us, is it 3/5? Is it 4/5? And so on. So let's just have a look at our first problem. Tim has 24 apples. He uses counters to represent his apples, and then we've got a certain amount of fractions that we need to find of that 24. So if we take the first question, I know that lots of us can actually do that question straight away in our head. Very simple. But if we had to find 2/3 of 24, 5/6 of 24, that's when lots of us start to find it a little bit more complicated. So we need to practice using this fraction wall. We need to unpick what we're doing, finding halves, for example, to begin with. So unpicking the very basics in order for us to be able to then apply this to what initially might look like a more complicated problem, but actually isn't. So half of 24 we know is 12. And if I just show where I've actually shared the apples out, we can visually see that. So let's just write that down. 1/2 of 24 is 12. Now, equally, what's really important is that if I'm finding half of something, then I realise that essentially I'm dividing by 2. I'm sharing between 2. How many 2's go into 24? Well, the answer is 12. So it's really important today to recognise that fractions and division are related. Effectively, you're doing the same thing. So I could have counted my apples or counters into my boxes if I wanted to. If I had 24 still at the top here, I could have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And I end up with 12. But equally, just knowing that this is dividing, when you find half of something you're dividing by 2, I can actually just use this fraction. Now, if I know half of 24 is 12, 2 halves of 24 would actually give me my whole. It would actually be 24. Let's now have a look then at a quarter of 24. Again, if you've just managed to work that out in your head, well done. So a quarter of 24, first of all, really important, what are we going to divide by? Well, if we're going to be finding quarters, then we're going to be dividing into by 4. Okay, 4 parts. Our starting number is 24 apples, so 24 divided by 4. Okay, I know that 4 goes into 24 6 times. So a quarter of 24 is 6. And again, I can show this on my bar model. But 24 counter apples, I've shared them one at a time into my 4 boxes. I ended up with 6 apples or counters in each box. Okay, so this is a quarter of the bar. Here is another quarter of the bar. Okay, and we can see my cuts along the bar that I've got, 4 boxes. So each of them is worth a quarter. I end up with 6 counters or 6 apples in them. Now, what's really important is that if I can find 1 quarter, as soon as I found 1 quarter, I can find 2 quarters or 3 quarters. So let's just think of the best colour to use for this, possibly green. If this is 1 quarter, this box, which we know is 6, a second quarter is going to be another 6, giving me 12, and a third quarter is going to be another 6, giving me 18. Okay, so I've got my 3 quarters, each containing 6. So let's just write that underneath here. Effectively, if we know that 1 quarter is 6, another quarter is going to be another 6 apples, another quarter is going to be another 6 apples. And if I add up those quarters, you're very good at this, we know that I've got 3 quarters. When I'm adding fractions, my denominator stays the same, but my numerator is what we add. So my 6 apples, add my 6 apples, is going to give me 18 apples. So 3 quarters of 24 is 18. What's very important, if you're trying to find 3 quarters of something, you must find the quarter first. If you're trying to find 5/6 of something, you must find the 1/6 first. So let's have a look at this one then. This is obviously now finding thirds. So I can see on this fraction wall that I've got 3 boxes. My 24 counters or apples have been shared amongst the 3 boxes, and I can see that in each box I've got 8. Okay, so this box is worth a third, it's got 8 apples in it. This box is worth a third, this box is also worth a third. Let's go back to what we was doing earlier. If I'm finding a third of something, what am I dividing by? Hopefully in your heads, you just thought we're dividing by 3. Have a look at the numerator. Have a look at the denominator. That tells me that I'm dividing by 3. The same as when it was a quarter. If I look at the denominator, that told me I was dividing by 4. And the denominator here told me I was dividing by 2. So the denominator tells me what I'm dividing by. Okay, thirds, finding 3 parts. 24 divided by 3. How many 3's go into 24? The answer is 8. And that's what we found down here, wasn't it? 8 apples. So 1/3 of 24, the answer is 8. If I was now finding 2/3 of 24, there's 1/3, which is 8. There's 2/3, it's another 8. So my answer is going to be 16. Okay. So if I was just to very quickly model that again, if I've got a third and we know that that third is worth 8, we worked that out up here, didn't we, at the top? Okay, 1/3 of 24 is worth 8. Then another third would still be worth 8. So if I add those together, denominator stays the same. Numerator shows me I've got 2/3. 8 add 8 is 16. Okay, my 2/3 is 16. Now, today, your problems are very much going to be presented to you like this. Okay, now, I've actually shown you the same problem here twice because there's two ways that you can go about using the bar model to help you. You could draw the counters in the same way that I was drawing the apples in, but equally we can just write the numbers. Let's have a look at what we mean. If I've got 1/3 of 18, effectively I'm taking 18 and I'm sharing it, dividing it by, I'm sharing it by 3, I'm dividing it by 3. Okay, I'm sharing it into 3 boxes. So first of all, I'm just going to write down that I know that this is the same as 18 divided by 3. So I know that 3 is going to 18 6 times. Okay. Now, one way to have done that is if I've got 18 in my head to have drawn the counters in the boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and keep going until I've shared out 18. Okay, and I should get the equal amount in each box. Another way to do it though, if I know that 1/3 of 18, as we've already said, is 18 divided by 3, and if I can work out that actually 3's fits into 18 6 times, then I could just put my 3 numbers that make 18, 6, 6, 6. And this is a more efficient and quicker way of filling in my bar model to represent 1/3 of 18 than actually drawing the counters. But you can decide which you prefer to do. You could actually decide to do both, if that helps you. Okay, this is all about practice. This is all about training ourselves to remember how to do this when we come back to this skill 2 or 3 weeks from now. Now, I'm going to colour over here 1/3. We know that 1/3, as we said, was 6. Okay. But actually, what about if I was looking at 2/3? Hopefully, then you realise, in fact, let's use a different colour for that. Okay, so hopefully we've realised that for 2/3 we need to keep our 1/3, and then we need to do a second third. 6 add 6 is 12. So my 2/3 of 18 is 12. Okay, and I know that because effectively I've added a third, and I've added a third, and each of those thirds, if you remember, was worth 6. Okay. If I was going to do, let's say 1/6 of 18, then this time I can use the bar that has been cut into sixths, the bar that's been cut into 6 pieces. Again, think about 18 counters and share them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and keep going until you've shared out 18. You're going to end up with 3 in each box, which is going to tell me that 1/6 of 18, which again is the same as 18 shared between 6, the answer is 3. And I would say, please, when you are completing this question, please write out your division fact, because that's really going to help you, as I've said earlier, 2 or 3 weeks from now, when we're going to ask you to solve these problems again, and actually, we'll begin to move away from having to represent it in a bar model, okay? Because obviously it's just more efficient to know, well, this is 18 divided by 6, what's the answer? Is 3. So over here, I could have put 3 in each box. And again, if you're completing these problems, I want you to make sure that you fill in your bar models either with counters or with numbers. Okay, so 1/6 of 18, 18 divided by 6, we're always going to write that part, the answer was 3. And if I look at 5/6 now, is basically 5 lots of the 3, isn't it? So the answer should be 15. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sixths. Okay, each of these blocks, remember, was worth a sixth. So 3 add 3, add 3, add 3, add 3, 5 lots of 3 is 15. Look at my answer. It looks realistic because 5 sixths is getting closer to being a whole. 6 sixths is the whole. 18 is my whole amount, and 15 is getting close to that. So let's have a look then at today's problems. If you're doing the Sapphire challenge, then you've got a series of 3 bar models there to help you. And it could be Sapphire that then you decide to do the first couple of challenges on bronze as well. Here are the challenges for bronze. And you can see we're only worrying about finding 1/10 or 1/8 or 1/4 of something. Okay, these are what we call unit fractions. 1 unit. Silver then, you're very much going to be finding 2/3 as well as a third, 4/7 as well as 1/7. And gold have got similar problems, but there's a couple of extensions as well. So I hope you enjoy today's activities year 4. It's really important, please, that your teachers want to see that you have filled in these bar models correctly. Okay, because it really shows us that you understand what you're doing, and would also like you, please, to make sure that you are writing the division fact down as well. So good luck today. Hope you get all of your questions right, and please check your working and think, does it look realistic as you go along. Good luck. Thank you, year 4.